Just tell me when.
Yep, go.
So I'm Geoff Gilmore. It's June 1st of 2016, and I was the president of the Rotary Newburgh Club of Newburgh, Oregon, from the years 2013 through 2014. And as I started out my presidency, the month before I got inaugurated, I went to the Rotary International Convention in Lisbon, Portugal. And fortunately, it wasn't a precursor to my year, because on the flight over to Lisbon, my plane actually had smoke problems, where mechanical failure, and we were grounded in Chicago, and I missed a day of the convention because of that. And then when I did finally get to the convention, the Portuguese Lisbon Transportation Union went on strike, and they advised the International Convention attendees to leave a day early. So I actually only got to participate in a day and a half of the normal Rotary International Convention. But that being said, it was really fun. I enjoyed my time there and spent a lot of time with past district governor Mike Caruso. And so learned a lot in the face of that adversity. Came back all charged up. Our Rotary theme for 2013 and 14 was Engage Rotary and Change Lives, which I thought was very appropriate. So I focused the club and our efforts for this year in two areas. One was operational improvements, just how the club operates on a day-to-day basis, and especially the board and the directors of the club. And so we streamlined our committees and our organizational chart to improve our effectiveness and reduce the amount of administrative time we were spending versus our service time to the community. And I thought that was very successful and helped the board become more cohesive and got a lot more done. In coordination with that, the budgeting process was non-existent, so I set up a budgeting process so we could prepare estimates of what we wanted to spend in different committees and different areas of the club. And then we tracked it on a monthly financial review, which I improved the process of how we checked on our spending. We spent a lot of time raising the money, and then to not spend it wisely or in an organized fashion seemed almost a shame. So we took on that task, and the club officers and directors did a wonderful job at embracing those new changes and using them for future benefit of the club. We also modified our website, which was getting pretty out of date, and took a stab at that, although in future years we came to the conclusion that we really wanted to start from the Greenfield site and start all over, and changed it dramatically. So it was kind of a precursor to that recognition of improving our communications to the outside world. And finally, on the operational front, we wanted to really focus in and simplify our fundraising to make it more effective. And we have a wonderful auction in a way that's both fun and engaging to the community, but the primary reason for doing that is to raise money. So we're fortunate to say that we raised a record amount of money in the auction in the year of my presidency. Again, lots of people went into that effort, making that happen. I was really proud of the club members for stepping forward and being able to raise money for our youth services in the community. Then, besides the operational improvements, one of the things I really wanted to work on was membership. You know, just how fun is it to be part of the club and to bring guests and other potential members to the club. So we really worked on becoming a fun, more inviting environment for people who are interested in serving others in the community. And I started doing a Rotary Minute. So at the very beginning of the meetings, I'd start with 1 minute where I'd read an interesting fact or tidbit about Rotary. Typically, most of the club members didn't know that fact, and so we had a little guessing game around that. And just welcoming the people that were new to the club, as well as prospective members, in a much more open and friendly fashion, including changing our seats up so that we weren't always sitting with the same people, and more socially engaged club members. And part of that then was to reach out and recruit people, our friends, our people we thought would be really interested in the spirit of what we do at Rotary, and we were successful at bringing several new members into the club. On the other side, we're professional people that are either retired or still active, in nonprofits as well as for-profits, and so I thought it would be wise to review our ethical standards as Rotarians, because not everyone can be a Rotarian, and there's a reason for that. So we went through and looked at our ethics and how we operate on a day-to-day and month-to-month and year-to-year basis and what it means to be a Rotarian. And I thought that was really helpful for us to remember the core of who we are from our heart. And then we really wanted people to be engaged. The board and the directors wanted all our members to be engaged, not just in fundraising and money making projects or in dispersing our money to the services, but actually just service work, the serve others with our hands and feet and spend time on our projects, not just the money for the projects. So we wanted and stepped up our commitment to the service component of Rotary by asking each one of the members to be active in at least one committee during the year and to offer up part of their personal time in service. And then since the morning club had split off several years back from our club because our club had gotten too big, and the morning club had started it off on its own path, I thought it would be good if we could do some joint projects together to keep the spirit of the community in front of both clubs, and instead of having even sibling rivalry, so to speak, between the clubs, to be cooperative and advance the joint reason that Rotarians exist and joined Rotary to start with. So we did a couple of joint projects together, which always helps build new friendships and renew friendships. And finally, on a little bit of a sad note, Joanne Austin passed away during my time as president, and Ken Austin and her were fundamental contributors to the Newburgh community in both significant financial and community and ethical ways. And in order to honor her passing, we created the Joanne Austin Memorial Rose through one of the local companies here, and she has her own special rose dedicated to her memory. So I was glad that we could do that for the Austin family in memory of her assistance in community activities. So I think it was a great year. I had a lot of fun, and I certainly think Rotary was engaged during my time as the club president, and I'm glad that we were able to change lives at the same time, both ours as well as the recipients of who we focused on. So.
Cool. Well, thanks, Geoff. I've got just some additional questions for
Sure.
you. Going back to the beginning, how did you hear about Rotary and actually come to join it in the first place?
Yeah, great question. I didn't know hardly anything about Rotary until Leroy Benham and John Kirkanick, both past presidents, sat me down, who were friends of mine in the community, sat me down one day and said, hey, we think you would really like this group of people. Why don't you come to lunch and just talk with us? And I said, okay, that sounds great. So I joined them for a lunch. I was immediately drawn in with the compassion and the caring of these professional people that had expressed itself in both raising money but also donating time and money to the local community. And I said, yeah, this sounds really great. And they said, well, what do you think? Why don't you come along and join us? And I said, well, I'm really busy. I'm running this company. It's got a whole bunch of things happening right now, and maybe an acquisition. And home life was really busy. I wanted to get my kids out of high school and into the university so we could have a little quieter time at the house. I said, maybe 2 years would be perfect. Why don't I target that? And they said, well, we really like new members right now, and we got some, things that we think you bring a skill set to help the club in, and why don't you just keep coming to lunches and see what happens. So I went to 2 more lunches, and by then I was totally sucked in, and I joined the club. And I said, but I can't be too active until this 2-year time period comes up. And so John and Leroy, I think, conspired because about 2 months later they asked me to be a future president, which is about 3 years out, right? In the way Rotary has a great succession planning process. And so they kind of twisted my arm a little bit harder, and I was immediately into the leadership function in that time period. So that's how I joined.
All right, very neat.
Yeah.
What has Rotary come to mean to you personally, and how has it impacted you throughout your time?
Oh yeah, it's been a pretty tremendous impact. always was a pretty giving person and compassionate and active in church and things like that over different periods of my life and my family's backgrounds. But this kind of brought it forward in a systematic way where I consistently, at least once a week or once every 2 weeks if I missed a meeting, reminded me that I have more to give to the community and to express myself in that way as well. So it's made a huge difference in my life. Yeah.
Great, great. Do you have a favorite memory from your time in Rotary or a favorite project that you've worked on?
Oh, there's lots. Just the people. I just enjoy going to the weekly meetings and asking people how their week went, or what was important to them in their lives. They tell their stories about their kids, their grandkids, their businesses. Sometimes people open up in just pretty astounding ways about what's important to them, and you can see their passions come out in different areas. Some people are just absolutely all engaged in helping people in Nepal, with water and earthquake rebuilding. Other people are very local and say, they are totally committed to helping young athletes at the Newburgh High School and helping support those efforts for the young people to start to build their ethical character and their teamwork skills. So it's the variety, I think, and the diversity that can happen at Rotary that's really, really refreshing, because sometimes, like in a nonprofit or church, they get pretty focused in one or two areas, which is important. But the breadth of what Rotary International and various clubs have to offer is just absolutely astounding. Personally, I got hooked on the eradication of polio in the world effort, and I still give a lot to that area, particularly intrigued by how the whole world can operate in a way such we can eradicate a deathly virus and permanently eradicate it from the world.
Do you have do you have any advice for future Rotarians?
Get onto a project, know what you love to work on, and get right active on it. You'll find others with similar backgrounds and beliefs and energy, and it'll be rewarding, and you'll get back more than you give. Yeah.
Great. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about, anything we didn't get to, or stuff that you think people should know about the club?
I think we are, at least I am, pretty ignorant of the early days of the club, and that's why I'm so excited about this project. This also has been one of my pet projects, was to hire a Rotary intern to help us look back and see what the club has accomplished over its years, and building off of the historical success of the club, we will become even more successful in the future. So yeah, it's been really good just to participate so far in relearning some of the history and documenting it.
All right. Well, that's all I have. So thank you so much for your time, Geoff.
Sure.